Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be tackling something today that I think is practically guaranteed to show up on your UPSC exams.
Oh, yeah.
India's economic outlook.
Big one.
It's a bit like a tightrope walk right now with all these global tremors shaking things up.
Yeah.
So we're going to be using the Economic Survey
That's just
2024-25
right.
as our guide,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to dissect the key points
Okay.
that could be pure gold for both your mains and prelims.
Absolutely. This is a great document for UPSC folks.
And why don't you tell everyone
Yeah.
why this is such a valuable document?
Well, it's all about the timing, really.
Yeah.
The economic survey, it's released just before the budget every year.
Oh, interesting.
So you're getting like a sneak peek into the government's thinking, their
Well,
economic priorities, you know?
so it's like
Almost like getting a preview.
a little bit of a cheat sheet
Yeah, a little bit.
for the exam.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's start then with the global landscape, because we know that the world economy isn't exactly, firing on all cylinders right now.
Not exactly.
The IMF has projected a growth of just 3.2%
Yeah. That's
for 2024.
a big slowdown.
That's a significant slowdown.
Big slowdown.
And it's largely due to manufacturing hitting a slump.
Yeah.
And then those supply chain issues are also a major culprit,
Uh-huh.
like all those bottlenecks we keep hearing about.
Absolutely.
So how does this global scenario impact India specifically? Are we somehow immune, or do we get caught in the undertow?
Well, we're definitely part of the global ecosystem, so we can't escape those ripple effects.
Right.
The slowdown in manufacturing, for example, that directly impacts demand for our exports.
Okay.
But the impact isn't uniform across all sectors.
Okay.
While manufacturing is feeling the pressure,
Uh-huh.
the services sector is actually demonstrating some resilience. And that's not just globally, that's especially in India.
Okay, so it's a mixed bag for India.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that I know everyone is dealing with and thinking about.
Inflation.
Yeah.
Global headache.
A global headache that just won't quit.
It really won't.
Why is that?
It's a tricky issue, no doubt.
Mm.
It is showing signs of easing globally,
Okay.
but it remains stubbornly high.
Yeah.
Especially for services.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
And, for aspiring civil servants, understanding those nuances of inflation and how it impacts different sectors is crucial.
It's not just some,
Right.
abstract economic concept.
Absolutely.
It's what we're experiencing every time we,
Every day.
go grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Or try to,
Absolutely.
buy anything these days.
Yeah.
And speaking of tricky, this must be a nightmare for central banks who are
Yeah.
trying to manage it all.
It is. Central banks worldwide are walking a tightrope right now.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to balance controlling inflation while also supporting economic growth.
It's a tough job.
Yeah.
What about for the RBI?
Yeah, so for the RBI, this means very carefully calibrating monetary policy tools like interest rates
Okay.
and reserve requirements.
Okay.
These decisions, they have huge implications for India's economy.
I can imagine it.
They influence everything from borrowing costs for businesses to the value of the rupee,
Wow. Okay, so the global picture then
All
is
right.
a bit peach shaky with slow growth
Uh-huh.
and this persistent inflation.
Uh-huh.
So how does this backdrop then influence India's own growth
Right.
trajectory?
Well, the survey projects India's GDP to grow
Okay.
between 6.3 and 6.8%
Okay.
in the fiscal year 2026.
That sounds
That's a healthy growth rate.
good.
But it's important to note that the estimate for the fiscal year 2025
Okay.
is slightly lower at 6.4%.
So a little dip.
A little dip, yeah. And this raises an important question. What factors are contributing to this slight deceleration, and what does it signal about the economy's overall health?
It's like getting a good report card, but with a slightly lower grade than you were hoping for.
Exactly.
So what's behind this dip? Should we be hitting the panic button?
Not necessarily. I mean, the slowdown in manufacturing,
Yeah.
influenced by that sluggish global demand we talked about, definitely plays a role.
Right.
But there are also domestic factors at play,
No, go ahead.
like the pace of investment and consumer spending.
So that global slowdown is like a ripple effect,
Mhm.
impacting us even here in India.
It is.
Now let's zoom in on some specific sectors
Okay.
within India's economy, because the economic survey highlights some interesting trends,
It does.
especially in agriculture and
Well,
services.
Uh-huh.
So why don't we start with agriculture?
Sure. Agriculture is actually a bright spot.
Really?
Yeah. The survey projects a growth rate of 3.8%,
Wow.
driven by a record Kharif crop
That's great.
and strong rural demand.
Okay.
So this robust performance in agriculture has significant implications not just for farmers' incomes,
Right.
but for the overall economy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's fantastic news for farmers.
Yeah.
But what about the impact on food prices?
Yeah.
For the average person, I mean,
Yeah.
does a bumper crop automatically translate to cheaper food?
That's a great question, and one that often comes up in those UPSC discussions.
I bet.
While a bumper crop can help moderate food inflation,
Okay.
it's not a simple equation.
Right.
Other factors like global commodity prices,
Uh-huh.
supply chain efficiency,
Okay.
and government policies,
Right.
they all play a role as well.
So it's a little more complicated than just
Yeah,
supply and demand.
it is.
All right, let's move on to industry and manufacturing, where things are, as we've discussed, a bit slower.
Right, because of that global slowdown.
Exactly.
Yeah, the survey projects a growth rate of 6.2% for that sector
For fiscal year 25.
in fiscal year 25.
Okay, so this slowdown raises concerns about
Yeah.
job creation
Right.
and the overall health of the sector.
Absolutely.
This is worrisome to me
All right.
because it could have like a cascading effect,
Right.
potentially impacting jobs and livelihoods. It makes me wonder, are there particular sectors within manufacturing
Huh.
that are feeling the pressure more than others?
That's a pertinent question. And certain sectors, like those heavily reliant on exports or facing stiff competition from imports, are likely to bear a greater brunt of the slowdown.
Okay.
Understanding these nuances is essential for policymakers
Right.
to formulate targeted interventions and support.
So really important to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears to the services sector,
All right.
which seems to be the star performer
Yeah, they're leading the charge.
in the Indian economy.
Yeah, with a projected growth rate of 7.2%.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's fueled by a confluence of factors, including strong domestic demand,
Okay.
increasing digitization,
Right.
and India's competitive edge in areas like IT and business process outsourcing.
It's incredible to think about just the sheer dynamism of
Sure.
India's services sector
Yeah.
with, booming tech hubs, bustling financial centers,
Absolutely.
and a thriving tourism industry.
Yeah.
But is this growth sustainable
Right.
in the long run?
That's the question.
And equally important, is it inclusive?
Uh-huh.
Is it reaching all segments of society,
Yeah.
all corners of the country?
Those are crucial questions that policymakers and aspiring civil servants need to grapple with.
I can imagine.
While the services sector's performance is impressive,
Ah,
ensuring its sustainability and inclusiveness
right?
requires addressing issues like skills gaps,
Okay.
regional disparities,
Uh-huh.
and infrastructure bottlenecks.
Okay, so it's not just about growth. It's
Yeah.
about
It's about equitable
equitable
and sustainable growth.
and sustainable growth.
Yeah.
Now let's turn our attention to India's external sector,
Right.
trade and remittances.
Okay.
What insights does the economic survey offer here?
Well, the survey points out that India's exports, while growing, are expanding at a slower pace than imports.
Okay.
And this disparity widens the trade deficit, raising concerns about the sustainability of our external accounts.
So we're buying more from the world than we're selling.
Yeah,
So in simple terms, it's like spending more than you're earning.
it is.
Is this something we should be worried about?
It's certainly something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
A persistently high trade deficit can put pressure on the rupee
Right.
and increase our reliance on external borrowing. However, there's a silver lining.
Okay.
In the form of remittances.
Okay.
India continues to be the world's top recipient of remittances,
Okay.
which provide a crucial source of foreign exchange,
Right.
and they support our current account.
So it's like having a safety net.
It is.
These remittances are like a steady stream of income from family members abroad,
Yeah,
helping to offset that trade deficit.
that's a good analogy.
Okay.
Remittances play a significant role in India's economy,
Uh-huh.
supporting household incomes,
Right.
boosting consumption,
Okay.
and strengthening our external financial position.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have...
The global economic slowdown,
Oh.
India's growth story,
Yeah,
the performance of different sectors.
right.
It's a complex picture,
It is.
but I'm starting to see how all the pieces fit together.
That's great. Economics is all about understanding the interconnections and analyzing how various factors influence each other.
Right.
However, it's also about recognizing that no economic picture is complete without considering the challenges.
Okay.
And the economic survey doesn't shy away from highlighting those.
Challenges. Sounds like we're about to
Not a minefield,
walk into a minefield.
but definitely some tricky terrain
Okay.
that requires careful navigation.
All right. Well, I'm ready for the next leg of our journey.
Okay.
Lead the way.
Let's go. All right, let's dive into those challenges then.
Okay.
Starting with the ever-present geopolitical uncertainties.
Right.
The world feels a bit like that tightrope, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Shaky and unpredictable.
Yeah, definitely.
Conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war. Right.
And the Israel-Hamas conflict, they send these shockwaves through the global system, disrupting trade, fueling energy insecurity, and adding to those inflationary pressures.
Yeah. It's a volatile landscape out there.
It is.
And these events, I mean, they have far-reaching consequences.
Absolutely.
Take the Suez Canal disruptions, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that massive container ship that got stuck?
Yes.
Bringing global shipping to a standstill?
Yeah, it was a mess.
It really highlighted just how fragile global supply chains are and just how interconnected the world economy really is.
Absolutely. Even seemingly isolated events like that can have ripple effects.
It's a stark reminder that we live in this interconnected world where events on one continent can quickly impact the lives of people, you know, thousands of miles away.
That's right.
So how can India navigate these turbulent geopolitical waters?
Right.
What strategies can we adopt to kind of mitigate the risks and ensure stability?
Yeah.
Well, the economic survey outlines some key approaches.
Okay.
And diversification is really at the heart of it.
Okay.
This means reducing our reliance on any single country or region for trade energy or other critical resources.
So spreading the risk.
It's about spreading the risk, building resilience, and having multiple options.
So it's like having a backup plan.
Yeah.
Not putting all our eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
But how easy is it to shift those trade patterns and find new suppliers?
Well,
especially when everyone is competing for the same resources.
It's definitely a challenge. It requires strategic thinking and proactive diplomacy.
Okay.
But India is already making strides in this direction.
Right.
Exploring new trade agreements, forging partnerships with countries that align with our interests, and diversifying our energy sources.
So being agile and adaptable, constantly assessing the landscape, and adjusting course as needed.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to the next challenge. Inflation.
Yeah.
This persistent beast.
Right.
That just won't go away.
It just keeps hanging on.
Despite some easing globally.
Yeah.
It continues to be a major concern, especially in India.
Especially in India.
Food inflation in particular.
Yes. Food inflation is a critical issue that directly impacts people's lives and livelihoods.
Absolutely.
The economic survey emphasizes the need to tackle this challenge head-on, recommending a multi-pronged approach.
For UPSC aspirants, I think understanding the nuances of inflation its causes, its impact is essential.
Absolutely.
It's not just about memorizing economic theories.
Yeah.
It's about connecting those theories to real-world issues.
Right.
And potential solutions.
Exactly.
So what are some of the strategies that the survey proposes to tame this inflation beast?
Well, the survey recommends expanding food buffer stocks to ensure adequate supply and stabilize prices.
Right.
Strengthening supply chains to reduce waste and inefficiencies. And promoting climate-resilient agriculture to mitigate the impact of those weather-related shocks.
Interesting.
These are all long-term structural solutions aimed at addressing those root causes of food inflation.
So these strategies, they seem to focus on the supply side.
Yeah.
Making sure we have enough food and getting it to people efficiently. But what about the demand side?
Right.
What about those who are struggling to afford basic necessities because of those rising prices?
That's where well-designed social safety nets and welfare programs play a crucial role. The survey emphasizes the need for targeted interventions that provide immediate relief to vulnerable populations while simultaneously addressing those underlying factors driving inflation.
So it's about finding that balance.
It is.
Providing a safety net in the short term while working towards long-term solutions that address the systemic issues. Now let's move on to the next challenge, which is closely linked to the first two.
Okay.
A slump in investment.
Right.
With a global slowdown.
Yeah.
And this persistent inflation businesses are becoming more cautious. They're holding back on investment.
Yeah, and this is particularly impacting India's manufacturing sector.
Right.
Investment is the engine of economic growth.
It is.
And when businesses hesitate to invest, It creates a ripple effect throughout the economy.
It's like that tightrope walker losing their balance.
Exactly.
If investors lose confidence, the whole economy can wobble.
The survey recognizes this challenge.
Okay.
And offers some recommendations to revive investor confidence.
Good.
And boost those investment flows.
So what are some of the strategies?
Well, the survey emphasizes creating a more investor-friendly environment.
Okay.
Through things like tax reforms.
Okay.
Improving the ease of doing business. And providing targeted incentives.
Okay.
To attract investment in key sectors.
So it's about setting a clear signal that India is open for business.
Yeah.
But is that enough in a world where
right.
countries are constantly vying for investment?
What makes India stand out in this competitive landscape?
Exactly.
Well, India has inherent strengths that we can leverage.
What are those?
A vast and growing market.
Okay.
A young and talented workforce. And a government that is actively pursuing economic reforms.
Okay.
The key is to communicate these strengths effectively.
Right.
And translate them into concrete policies and actions.
I see.
That foster a vibrant and conducive investment climate.
All right, so we've discussed geopolitical uncertainties, inflation, and the investment slump.
Right.
What's the final challenge on our list?
The last one is perhaps the most concerning.
Okay.
Growing financial stress on states. Rising subsidies, lower tax collections due to the economic slowdown, and increasing reliance on central funds. They're creating fiscal imbalances that threaten the stability of state finances.
This sounds like a real tightrope walk.
It is.
With states struggling to balance their budgets and meet their financial obligations.
It's tough.
Are some states facing greater challenges than others?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And one that the economic survey addresses directly.
Okay.
The impact of fiscal stress varies across states, depending on their revenue sources, their expenditure patterns, and their debt levels.
Okay.
If left unaddressed, this fiscal imbalance can have far-reaching consequences.
Like what?
Undermining essential public services.
Wow.
Hindering development projects.
Okay.
And impacting the overall economic health of states.
So it's a domino effect.
It is.
Fiscal stress at the state level can have a cascading impact on the entire economy.
That's right.
What measures does the survey recommend
to
address this challenge and restore fiscal stability?
The survey emphasizes the need for states to strengthen their own revenue generation mechanisms, rationalize subsidies to ensure they're targeted and effective, and promote greater fiscal discipline and responsibility.
So it's about empowering states.
It is.
To take charge of their own financial destinies.
Right.
But this requires a delicate balancing act, right?
It does.
Balancing the need for fiscal prudence with the responsibility to provide essential services and support economic development.
Exactly. It's a complex equation with no easy solutions.
Yeah.
But the economic survey provides a roadmap outlining key strategies and highlighting the importance of collaboration between the central and state governments to navigate these challenges effectively.
Okay, so we've covered the challenges, and it's clear that there's no magic bullet.
No.
But I'm also sensing a thread of optimism woven through these discussions.
Good.
The economic survey doesn't just present problems.
Right.
It offers solutions and a path forward.
You're right. Every challenge is also an opportunity.
That's a good way to look at it.
The economic survey outlines a vision for a more resilient, equitable, and prosperous India. Wow. And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
I'm ready to explore that vision.
Okay.
Lead the way. Okay, so we've navigated that global economic roller coaster. We've dissected India's growth story, and we've confronted those challenges that lie ahead.
We sure have.
Now for the big question, what's the path forward?
Right. How can India not just weather the storm, but emerge stronger and more prosperous?
Sure, exactly.
Well, the economic survey provides a roadmap. A strategic framework for navigating these complexities and unlocking India's economic potential.
I like it.
It outlines a four-pronged approach, focusing on managing geopolitical risks, taming inflation, attracting investment, and strengthening those state finances.
So it's a...
Think of it as a comprehensive strategy to keep that tightrope walker steady and moving forward.
Okay, let's break down each of these strategies. First up, managing those geopolitical uncertainties. What's the game plan?
Well, the survey stresses the importance of diversification. reducing our reliance on any single country or region for trade, energy, or other critical resources.
Right, spreading the risk.
It's about spreading the risk, building resilience, and having multiple options.
Like having a backup plan.
Exactly.
But how does India actually achieve this diversification?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we can just flip a switch and change our trade partners or energy sources overnight.
You're right. It's a gradual process that requires careful planning and strategic execution. The survey highlights specific measures like forging new trade agreements, exploring alternative energy sources, and strengthening partnerships with countries that align with our interests.
Okay.
It also emphasizes the need for a proactive and agile foreign policy that can adapt to that ever-changing geopolitical landscape.
So it's not just about economics.
It's not.
It's about diplomacy, strategy, and really a deep understanding of those global dynamics.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's shift gears to inflation.
Okay.
That persistent beast that just won't go away.
It's a tough one.
The survey emphasizes the need to tackle food inflation head on.
Yes.
So what are some of the key recommendations?
Well, the survey proposes a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
It recommends expanding food buffer stocks to ensure adequate supply and stabilize prices, strengthening supply chains to reduce waste and improve efficiency, and promoting climate-resilient agriculture to mitigate the impact of those weather shocks.
It's interesting to see how the survey connects these seemingly disparate elements.
Right.
Food security, supply chain management, and climate change.
Yeah.
It highlights how interconnected all of these issues really are.
They are connected.
And the need for these holistic solutions.
Absolutely.
But while these are crucial long-term strategies, what about the immediate impact of inflation on people's lives?
Right.
I mean, what about those who are struggling to afford those basic necessities?
That's a critical point, and the survey acknowledges the need for immediate relief. It emphasizes the importance of robust social safety nets and targeted welfare programs that can cushion the impact of rising prices on vulnerable populations.
Okay, so a safety net.
A safety net.
To make sure that those essential needs are met.
Exactly.
While those long-term solutions are being implemented.
That's right.
It's about striking a balance.
It is.
Providing immediate relief while simultaneously working towards sustainable solutions that address those root causes of inflation.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to attracting investment.
Okay.
Which is crucial for fueling economic growth and creating jobs.
It is.
What strategies does the survey propose to revitalize investment flows?
The survey emphasizes the need to make India a more attractive destination for both domestic and foreign investors.
Okay.
It recommends tax reforms that simplify the system and reduce the burden on businesses, initiatives to improve the ease of doing business, and targeted incentives to attract investment in key sectors.
So it's about rolling out the red carpet for investors, creating a clear and consistent policy framework that minimizes risks and maximizes rewards.
Yeah. But with so many countries vying for investment, what makes India stand out?
That's a good question.
What are our unique strengths?
Yes, so are they?
Well, India has a lot to offer investors.
Right.
A vast and growing market, a young and talented workforce, a vibrant democracy, and a government that is committed to economic reforms.
Those are some pretty significant strengths.
They are.
And the survey highlights the importance of leveraging these strengths effectively and showcasing India's potential on the global stage.
Right.
So it's about telling our story, demonstrating our capabilities, and building a brand that resonates with investors worldwide.
Absolutely.
All right, let's tackle the final challenge, strengthening state finances.
Okay.
We've talked about how rising subsidies, lower tax collections, and increasing reliance on central funds are creating fiscal stress.
Right.
What are the key recommendations for getting states back on solid financial footing?
The survey stresses the importance of fiscal discipline and responsibility at the state level.
Okay.
It recommends strengthening revenue generation mechanisms, rationalizing subsidies to ensure they're targeted and effective, and promoting greater transparency and accountability in public spending.
It's about empowering states to take charge of their own financial destinies.
It is.
But this requires a delicate balancing act, right?
It does.
Managing those competing demands for resources while ensuring fiscal prudence and long-term sustainability.
It's a complex equation that involves political considerations, social priorities, and economic realities.
Of course.
The survey provides a framework for navigating these complexities, emphasizing the importance of collaboration between the central and state governments to find solutions that work for everyone.
So we've covered the challenges and the path forward outlined in the economic survey.
Yeah.
It's a lot to digest.
It is.
What's the key takeaway for our listeners, especially those UPSC aspirants who are gearing up for their exams.
The key takeaway is India's economy is at a pivotal juncture, facing both opportunities and challenges. The economic survey provides valuable insights into the government's economic thinking, highlighting key trends, identifying potential risks, and outlining strategies for achieving sustainable and inclusive growth. For UPSC aspirants, it's essential to not only understand the economic concepts, but also to analyze the policy prescriptions and the reasoning behind them.
Absolutely. The economic survey is a goldmine of information, and this deep dive has hopefully given you a good starting point.
Yeah.
For those who want to explore further, we highly recommend checking out the full Economic Survey 2024-25. You can find it on the PIB website.
Great resource.
And remember, the economic survey is just one piece of the puzzle. The union budget will provide further details on how the government plans to translate these recommendations into concrete policies and allocations.
Absolutely. And we'll be keeping a close eye on those developments and bringing you more in-depth analysis.
So stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, and hit that like button if you found this deep dive helpful. We're here to guide you through the complex world of economics and help you ace those UPSC exams.
And before we wrap up, here's a final thought-provoking question for you. If you were the finance minister, what policies would you prioritize to ensure India's economic success and inclusive growth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those brains buzzing.